All right, welcome into the next edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. We are sitting in studio, and we're going to talk about a little football in this podcast. So before we jump in, I want to thank the sponsors, Chai Poker. He's got a new blog post out if you want to read that, chaipoker.com. I know you read it, Spike, right?
Of course I did.
So summarize for us.
He talked about Chai Poker in Israel.
Yeah, he's taking a little trip. He actually talked to me about it today a little.
Did he?
Yeah, he's going on a long excursion for about...
A long what?
Excursion.
Oh, okay.
For about a month.
I really thought he said sturgeon, like the fish.
I thought he said Sturgis, like the city in wherever the fuck that is.
South Dakota?
Montana? Or South Dakota? Yeah, that's what I thought he said. He's going
same thing.
I mean, he's going to Sturgis, Israel. Yeah.
Could be a legit place.
We also have a new sponsor approached us. Yeah, the VGK Pop Sockets on Twitter. They sell pop socket. I don't know if are you familiar with what a pop socket is?
No idea.
Not popping out of socket like your elbow.
Right, yeah. Okay, yeah. No, I have no idea what this is.
It sticks on the back of your phone, and it acts as basically like this. Like my phone case has a leg on it that you can do this, and it sits like
like
a TV or whatever.
So that's good for poker players for sure.
Yeah, the pop socket, you stick it onto your phone or your phone case, and the pop socket, I guess, I don't know the other word for it. It acts as basically a table leg.
Interesting.
So they're kind of wicked. Des, the producer, has one. It's not a VGK one, but they're pretty cool. Yeah, I think hers has like just design on it. So, anyways, so we want to thank them for coming aboard. And so if you ever want to check out our Twitter, we linked up to the VGK Pop Sockets. Check out their website and go ahead and buy one. They got a bunch of other VGK stuff too, but their actual name of their store is called VGK Pop Sockets. So we thank those guys and gals for coming aboard. And we have one other sponsor who puts on our dribble every week, and that's 12 Ounce Sports Radio. And, of course, we thank them because without them, the other people in the country wouldn't hear us. And they wouldn't know how Spike's doing. How are you doing, by the way, Spike?
Would you shut the fuck up? Nobody cares.
The great people listening on 12 Ounce Radio care.
They really don't, though. I promise you they don't.
Because you know what's crazy? If
what about the pop sockets, do they care?
If they go on our website, they're like, yeah, Anthony's from Detroit. You know, he's from the East Coast. Well, not East Coast, but Mid-East.
Midwest.
You're not. Detroit's not the Midwest.
Yes,
it's definitely not the Middle East.
Well, you know what? Where he lives, it might be the Middle East. Have you ever?
I'm from Dearborn.
Dearborn has like the biggest Muslim population.
Yeah. My mistake.
So yeah, eat a pop socket on that one. But then on the website it says, "Who knows? Spike's a mystery." So maybe they want to know how you're doing. What the fuck is this guy doing? How's the dog?
The dog's.
We don't give a fuck on the dog.
The dog's good. No. If anybody's going to care about any part of my life, it's the dog.
So, anyways, let's jump in. Let's talk football because I believe this is the last few days without football. The Hall of Fame game, correct me if I'm wrong, is Thursday. I couldn't tell you who's fucking playing, but I know it's Thursday. So,
it is Thursday.
All right, I was waiting for confirmation on that one.
Chicago against Baltimore.
All right, nobody against nobody.
Pretty much, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit of football before we get in there. We'll talk about a couple of articles that were recently published to the website, and we'll talk about a little bit of the win totals as well. We're going to do a big win total show. I know we've been prepping for that for a couple months now. I use air quotes on prepping. But a couple things I wanted to talk about. The first thing I heard on the radio the other day was Jon Gruden, obviously new returning coach of the Raiders, however you want to look at it. He said that he would give up his salary if the Raiders don't, quote, get it done. And my first initial thought, Spike, was, the fuck does get it done mean? How do you define getting it done?
Yeah, I can't imagine exactly what he's using as a measure of success. Maybe he's talking about a division win?
A division, just the one win?
Well, fair enough. No, I meant winning the division overall, as in finishing first place in the AFC West.
Well, I mean...
And is there a time frame, or?
Well, if he does it this year, this would be the year to do it. I mean, I think for all intents and purposes, that division's pretty down.
It is.
I mean, I hate to think that losing Alex Smith is such a huge problem for the Chiefs, but it might be. I mean,
I actually have the odds for the division right in front of me.
Yeah, Chargers got to be the favorites.
Chargers are a big favorite right now at 6-5, so plus 120.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yes.
Well, I figured the Chargers would be the favorite.
How?
The
Chargers have been the most overrated team in professional sports for the last 15 years.
Hey, right after the draft came out, I saw a wacky-ass prediction of who's going to be in the Super Bowl. It was Chargers against the Vikings or something like that.
That's not wacky. The Vikings were in the NFC Championship last year, and now they got Cousins. Which
Vikings make sense. Chargers,
not so much.
Well, think about it. I mean, you got who's the most the most accomplished quarterback in that division? It's Phillip Rivers.
I would say so.
He's been on the downside of his career for the last 5 years, though. And what does he have to throw to?
Well, he did throw for 4,500 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions last year. I wouldn't say downside of the career.
No,
and I believe they were 9-7 last year.
But it was mostly garbage time. It was mostly not in a game anyway where he had to throw the ball because they were down by fucking 40 points.
There's a few close games, and they lost a few.
I'm pretty sure they blew a lot of leads last year.
Well, I remember they lost a close game to the Rams early in the season.
First of all, the Chargers, I haven't given a shit about the Chargers since, I don't even remember what year it was, but the Patriots beat them in the playoffs, and then fucking LaDainian Tomlinson was at the podium crying about how the better team didn't win that day. Fuck you.
It's probably 2003 or something
like
that.
Yeah, so fucking, like I said, 15 fucking years. Fuck those guys. Absolutely worthless fucking team.
That sounded like a Boston accent for sure.
I know, he sounded like a Boondock Saint for a second. Okay, so again, back to, getting a division win. What's the Raiders' odds in that spot to win the division?
16-5. So that is
3-1,
320 plus 320.
Yeah, plus 320. So they're plus 320, which has got to make them the number 2 favorite.
They are the number 2 favorite. Broncos are 13-4, which is.
See, I think that's the best team in the division right now.
That's what I would say. That's where my money would go.
I'm not like absolutely shocked that the Chargers are the favorites because of their record last year, and the only reason the Chiefs went all the way down to last.
No, Chiefs are actually third.
So the Broncos are still last, even with Case Keenum. I guess they're just betting that Case just had the 1 year of success.
Amazingness. Yeah.
How amazing this might be a bit stretched.
Oh, I would still rank him slightly better than Stafford.
No way, dude. I know you like to pick on your Lions, but Stafford's a tier 2 quarterback. Fight me.
Tier 2 minus quarterback.
Oh, what? Dude, do you realize how bad you would be if he wasn't there?
We'd be pretty awful.
Yeah, I mean, he's the reason you're slightly above average. I mean, you've had, 3 playoff appearances in his time? No wins, but playoff appearances?
Yeah, I want to say 2 or 3, yeah.
Sorry.
It's been 2 or 3.
Okay, so you're telling me right now you would take Case Keenum over Matt Stafford?
Legitimate, probably not.
Yeah, so let's rewind the tape, and you should just shut down everything you just said for the last 2 minutes. I'm not trying to downplay Case Keenum. I mean, the guy had a good year; he got paid, but I think he can be good enough
in the crappy division.
Well, that defense is still really good, and they just added probably the best guy in the draft on defense in Chubb. Mm-hmm. Anyways, let's get back to the original point of getting it done. So, I mean, if you're not Al Davis, what the fuck's his kid's name? Really?
Yes.
Mark Davis. Mark Davis. If you're Mark Davis, what do you classify as getting it done for Gruden? Winning a title?
You would think so. I mean, and what would there be a time frame? Or?
But that's the thing. When you're Mark Davis, you're like, hey, John, you didn't really get it ddone. You didn't bring a title like you said you would. And he's like, well, getting it done meant just, winning a division like Spike told me to.
I mean, because what other measure of success makes sense for a year one coach?
Well, that's the thing. Is it year one? Is it his 10-year contract? I mean, what the fuck? Is it when they get to Vegas? Or That's the thing. It's like, I wish I could go to my boss, and I have, work to get done. And I'm like, you know what? If I can't get a job done, I'll give you back my salary and I'll quit. And it's like, well, I have a lot of tasks at hand to get done. There's a lot of different things. So if I'm able to just be very vague in my job, I mean, I guess Jon Gruden can do that too, right?
Very true.
So what about your boy? What about Brady? With the whole getting bombarded with questions about Edelman and Guerrero.
Yeah, I heard about that today. Brady has never really been the most open guy when it comes to the people around him, especially in press conferences. And now when a reporter is alluding to the fact that maybe his trainer is giving performance-enhancing drugs to one of his wide receivers and semi-insinuating that he would be doing the same for Brady, I mean, that's not a good way to get yourself invited back to the press room in the New England Patriots offices.
That is true. But it seems lately that Guerrero has been a little bit more of a nuisance than an asset to not only just Brady, but just to that entire organization itself, because it seems, correct me if I'm wrong, he's worked with Gronkowski, and Gronkowski's been hurt the last 3 years.
Yep.
He worked with Donta Hightower, and he's been hurt as well. He was out for the season. Was it last year or 2 years ago? Last year, right?
Yeah.
He's worked with Julian Edelman now, and Julian Edelman gets popped for 4 games.
Yep.
So it has, I mean, not that I'm condoning what basically what the implication by that reporter was, but the dots are starting to connect.
Fair enough, yeah. I absolutely agree with your logical thinking about that.
Logical is a strong word.
Yeah, let's not put words in his mouth.
I mean, if it's happened in the past, it's bound to happen in the future. Even if they only get suspended 4 games, they're probably going to try it. So.
Well, they already got the appeal denied. Edelman's going to sit the 4 games. I guess my situation is, I mean, okay, Spike, initial thoughts on Barry Bonds?
I mean, he's a steroid user and a cheater. And,
okay, so you say that, and the reason you say that is even though he never tested positive for an actual steroid test.
Didn't he in the...
He was in the Mitchell report, but he never actually failed a test. The point being I'm going with this, he got better the older he got.
Right.
And that seems to be not necessarily saying Tom Brady's getting... I mean, actually, I would say, the 3 Super Bowls that he won while he had a hand in were probably more defense and kicking, correct. But as the older he's gotten in his career, he's gotten better. I mean, the fact that he's 40 and still the best quarterback in the league has to raise some red flags.
Sure, I mean, people are going to question that, and they're going to look at that, but
I mean, I know that the rebuttal is, TB12.
Right.
Hey, look, I mean, I'm on Brady's side. He hasn't tested positive. I give him the benefit of the doubt, innocent until proven guilty. But this guy's starting to throw up a lot of flares.
Right, but, the flip side of that is when you look at Bonds, and you look at Bonds when he came into the league, and you look at Bonds when he was at the last couple of years when he was in the league, he was about 3 times the size.
He had a fat head.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing. Like, his head grew while he was in the league. That doesn't happen unless there are chemicals involved. And then if you look at Brady during his pro day at the Combine, when he has that fucking goofy, lanky-ass picture, and then the picture that was just posted on Instagram, what was that, last week with him and his wife?
Who, Bonds?
No, Brady.
Oh, Brady.
Where he looks basically exactly the same, where he's still got a little bit of the chub and he's still got a little bit of the lankiness going on. His body hasn't changed. The difference between him and Bonds is that Brady is incredibly intelligent. He's, he puts nothing but work into his life, and he studies the game better than anybody else. He's got the best coach.
100% agree with that. The question I have is, and I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just saying, I don't think it's a steroid thing, the situation. Basically the same thing with Peyton Manning. He had HGH injections into his neck.
Right.
To get his neck better. That's technically illegal, according to the governing bodies of the NFL. Medically, it's fine, because you gotta get your neck better. But, we kind of brushed over Peyton Manning because he is the NFL's golden boy.
Oh, yeah, the NFL would never do anything to Manning, even though he had the fucking drugs shipped to his house in his wife's name to try to avoid detection.
But, God forbid it comes out with Brady, Belichick, and this Guerrero guy that there is something foul going on here. Yeah. The legacy's already, depending on who you ask, tarnished based on the other situations. But, can you see a situation where Guerrero may fuck this whole dynasty up?
Based on how those stats are leading,
he came around, 2006 or 7? With Brady? Just Brady?
Something around there, yeah.
It's really only come to light in the last couple of years when he's been a distraction in the clubhouse.
For other people, too.
Right.
He's been other people's trainer.
Yeah, I mean, how the dots are leading and all that, they could just kill this franchise almost.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, every time you talk about the Patriots, somebody's going to say, oh, great dynasty, or somebody's always going to say, oh, they cheated. You would hate to have the other 50% of the people come over and I don't know. It's a weird feeling. So I don't know. It's just starting to, the flares are starting to really, take weight and have some shape, and it could be an issue here. It could be an issue in the sense of the beginning of the downfall or the beginning of the end for this.
Yeah, and I mean, this dynasty is going to come to an end sooner rather than later. I think people
they're definitely on the back four holes.
So, it's not going to be a gigantic shock when all of a sudden all of them retire or leave at the same time.
Fair enough. Any guys have any thoughts on Jerry Jones and the new anthem policy for the Cowboys?
I didn't even hear what it was. I just saw that there was one.
There is one. There's you're not kneeling at all, and if you'd like to continue to be a Cowboy, you're going to stand.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Well, that set off a few people. And so my question first and foremost is, if the NFL revoked this policy, are we still allowed to have a states' rights kind of thing where the teams can do whatever they want? I mean, I guess that's still okay, right?
This is the craziest thing because Jerry Jones has been the biggest states' rights guy in the NFL when it comes to like video clips, animated GIFs, and shit like that being posted on the internet. He wanted the teams to control it, the league, and actually Jonathan Kraft wanted the league to control it. So I never thought I'd be defending Jerry Jones over Jonathan Kraft, but in that situation I was. So for him to flip and go from states' rights or teams' rights back to trying to take control of this when the league is going to jump in, it's baffling. This entire argument makes no fucking sense. The owners in the league have no legal or moral ground to stand on in this entire fucking fight. And it's so goddamn frustrating that we're still talking about this shit.
Okay, you say that they have no moral or legal ground to stand, even though it is private enterprise. Why has nobody taken this anywhere?
They will, as soon as they start legitimately punishing people for kneeling during the anthem. Because right now it's just been, oh, we don't want people doing it. Oh, we don't want to show it on TV. We don't want to do this, that, and the other thing. As soon as they actually punish somebody, like if they suspend somebody for it or they fine them for it, then they're in
to court.
Right, then they're in violate. The players' union is going to step in and say, you can't fucking do that. And the NFL is going to get their asses handed to them. It's been decided by the Supreme Court, and it's been fucking law for 40 years, or 70 years. The fact that the league doesn't get that is baffling.
Okay, so would technically a punishment be keeping them in the locker room? That's not considered a punishment, correct?
No, I think that's the fairest way to handle this accordingly at the moment. And
right, the law is you can't force patriotism on people.
So, I think I'm with you with this situation, and Anthony, I'll ask you: is are you okay if that all stops and ceases? If the NFL stops its salute to service, all the stuff they do that they get money from? What do they get from the DoD?
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, the NFL only does it because they get funding from the DoD.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's just a situation where it's a catch-22. Look, the reason they're doing this, in wherever you believe their message may be, one of the reasons they're doing it in this platform and this stage is because it's all eyes are on them. But they're, at the same time, it's kind of mocking and hypocritical in the sense of, hey, look, you can make a forced demonstration with money that people are forcing down your throats because, let's just face it, the NFL is never going to close its pocketbook.
No.
So I just really wonder if a compromise would be, look, we'll stop doing these events or stop doing these displays if you guys shut it down as well.
But see, that's the thing. It's never been anti-military.
And whether you believe that or not, I understand. But if they take away those presentation, because like, what was it, 2010 is when they started coming out for the anthem and they started doing all this stuff
right around
with the flags and everything. Was it somewhere around that area?
I feel like it was earlier than that.
It might have been, yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Whenever it happened, they were forced to come out and be a part of the presentation, which whether they wanted to or not, because they could have spent that time, prepping, pre-gaming, whatever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They then had to come out and be part of this situation. But the thing is now, I had a point and I lost it. The thing is now we're not putting on our demonstration. That therefore you're not putting on your demonstration. The only aspect of something that's going on right here is just a game of football.
Yeah, I mean that would make the most sense, and that way the players that wanted to do something, that wanted to do some kind of activism or raising awareness of certain causes, would be able to do it through other avenues. They just wouldn't have the stage to do it. That would be the.
I mean, it seems
Sunday
like every player has a foundation nowadays. It seems like all the.
Well, they have to for the taxes, the tax benefits.
Right, and that's fine. But I feel like out of your foundation, that's where you can start to make your. That's where you can start to use your platform and make it known that you are actively doing something.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're right. There's no happy medium here. Punishing people is not the right way to go about it.
Right, because then it just looks like rich white billionaires picking on.
It's going to look like that either way,
and bullying the players. Yeah, no, I
it's going to look like that either way, and I think that's why the owners have.
The optics of this are just such shit. Like, the owners need to back away before it gets even worse for them.
But the question I have is, okay, so the NFL is the ones who took it down. I guess my question is, I don't know enough about corporate offices in the NFL. Like, obviously we know Goodell, obviously we know Smith, the player association president, and we know the 32 owners. We don't know them each personally, but we know who the 32 owners are.
Right.
Who the fuck's in the corporate offices making decisions? Because I was under the impression the 32 owners were pretty much the NFL and Goodell, who works for them.
Yeah, Goodell's supposed to be the whipping boy for whenever the owners make decisions.
Right.
As far as what goes on behind closed doors with, the VPs and all that within the NFL, I have no idea.
Because it's like, they're like, oh, well, the NFL is going to take the rule down or revoke the rule in the sense to try to figure out what it is. Well, I always thought, okay, so if the NFL takes the rule down to try to reassess on making a consensus rule, and all of a sudden now individual owners are making their own rules, I thought individual owners were the collective group that made up the NFL. So I guess I'm confused as to who's really actually calling the shots and pulling the strings here, because I was pretty sure when Goodell signed that extension, this would all get shut down. And to some extent it has, but for the same situation, a lot of it hasn't. So
it almost seems like it's stopped almost where it ended, just hasn't improved, it hasn't declined.
Well, the thing is, you can't really tell if it's improved or not improved because we don't have actual football games right now.
Yeah.
If the first game comes out, who plays that Thursday night? Philly and somebody else, Philly and Atlanta, I think. First game comes out and every single person, because, I mean, Philly's got who? Michael Bennett now. They've got Malcolm Jenkins, who are two guys who have been at the freaking forefront of this stuff. If they come out and they're standing, I mean, you got to feel like something either got through or something basically was said, or maybe they're silently forcing punishment at that point.
And that could very well be, but that's going to be a problem if they try to do that, because the NFL Players Union is, I think, a lot stronger than people realize, because they have firepower, they have money under their belts, and they're going to be able to do a lot of things, including paying legal bills to pay lawyers to go in there and really hurt the NFL, which is only going to hurt the owners, which is bad for the league, which only hurts us as fans, and it only hurts the players and their salaries at the end, and it hurts us with raised ticket sales and raised concessions, and it's just like, this is a no-win situation in all fronts.
So, question for you both. Do you think this could be more of a, when we look back 20 years from now or 30 years from now, I'm not saying this is guaranteed to happen, but could possibly, many people are saying the NFL may cease to exist in that time because of the way that it's becoming to can't hit here, can't hit there, can't hit, what the CTE is and everything, and parents taking their kids out of football. Do you think this could even be more of a factor of football not existing anymore because of the social aspect of it now becoming so much of a divide that both, whatever side of the fence you sit on, both people or both persons are like, you know what, fuck this. there's other sports on.
I can see a decline, but I don't see a complete wipeout.
I mean, you got to look at it. There was once a time period where the NFL was virtually irrelevant. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think the NFL could go back to just being like the fourth sport. I feel like it could cease to exist altogether with a combination of these two things.
I mean,
because look at your Malcolm Jenkins and your Michael Bennett's. I mean, yes, they want to show off their, the cause or have a voice or have a platform, but the question I have is when the check stops getting cashed, what do they do then?
Yeah, part of it too is just, there are cycles within American society and American culture when it comes to sports. I mean, back 100 years ago, the top three were like horse racing, boxing, and baseball in that order.
Well, they were the poor man's sports.
Right. So, it's just the NFL comes
along. Excuse me. I'm sorry. They were the richer man's sports.
Right. Yeah, I was like, that didn't...
Yeah, no, I realized when I said that. The poor sports were football. What the fuck else was a poor man's sport back then?
Tennis?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Basketball.
Anyways, I interrupted you. Pardon me, princess.
Yeah.
Soccer was one, too.
Yeah, I mean,
soccer's always been a poor sport.
Yeah, soccer in the United States is just such a weird history, and it got big in the 70s somehow, and then petered out, and then the United States had the World Cup, and what was that?
The 90s,
94 or something.
Two.
No, yeah, 94. What 94? What, no, that wasn't 94.
No,
what the same year as OJ? I felt like I watched a 30 for 30 on that.
No,
or was that the Olympics? Maybe I was thinking the Olympics.
Maybe
it was the Olympics.
Yeah. Well, whenever. I mean, it was early '90s, and then it had 94. A resurgence.
Anyways, go ahead.
And then MLS popped up, and et cetera, and so on. But as far as like actual league, like the professionals majors, it was for a long time boxing and horse racing were up there. So it's between the concussions, between this, I don't think it's necessarily one thing over the other. I don't think it's just, this is the straw that breaks the camel's back. I think it's just such a culmination of rule changes and knowing more about concussions and the societal implications. And, we look at how many players have come into the league, made decent money or, fair money, and then in the league for 2 years and then they're broke. All of these things adding up, I think, is going to turn people away from the league. And we know Roger Goodell doesn't have the capacity to make a good decision, even if a gun was pressed to his fucking head. So he's not going to be the one to lead them out of these kind of crises. So if there is going to be a downfall, it is going to be because of the societal implications, all of the other shit that's going on, and the fact that leadership can't get their head out of their own asses.
So it's a culmination of everything.
Yes. That's the much shorter way of saying that.
No, I understand. Well, that would have been a bad answer. Hey, I ask you this long-winded question. It's just a combination of everything. But it's the thing. It seems, like you said, less and less parents are putting their kids in youth football.
Fewer and fewer.
Shut up and shut up. Fewer and fewer. Whatever. This is actually, when we were talking about we should have your wife on. She's an attorney. So.
Yeah. I'll see if she wants to come on.
Yeah, we should talk about, what was it, West Virginia versus the Brown versus the Board of Education?
Yeah. Definitely not Brown versus Board of Ed. But yeah, it was West Virginia, and I can't remember.
West Virginia versus Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
One of those two. I know it's close. I'm close. I'm circling it. But anywho, let's talk about something a little more positive. And let's go into some articles that were recently posted on the Vegas Squares website. We're talking about prop bets, and there's going to be a series of posts in the next few next few weeks about the prop bets. And I know, Anthony, you had an opinion on some of the things that I wrote. Some you agreed with, some you disagreed with. Let's talk about the first one, and that's passing yards. I had a few guys who I thought were good value for passing. I found a website, the Sports Interaction website. It's a offshore book. I didn't bet with them because I'm waiting for them to come out. Have they come out in the States yet, any prop bets?
Yes. I know Caesars has them. I'm pretty sure Westgate has them. I believe William Hill has some as well.
Okay, so let's just, I want to kind of compare the site I found's numbers to what like Caesars would have. So like in passing, my 4 guys I had who I thought had great value. I had Aaron Rodgers, who was 10-1, Matt Ryan 14-1, Kirk Cousins 19-1, and Deshaun Watson 37-1. Those were the 4 guys I thought had the best chance.
What was the 4th one again?
Deshaun Watson 37-1. So those are the guys I thought not necessarily had the best chance, but had actually
decent value,
good value based on the fact that they actually have the ability. I mean, Kirk Cousins, Rodgers, Ryan all have weapons galore, and they're some of the best quarterbacks in the league. And I thought they were getting really good stats. I mean, Brady even at 450 was a good number, but it may not have been the best value. So my first question is, what did Rodgers go off at Caesars?
I see as of a couple weeks ago, it was 7-1.
Okay, so you're getting better value here, but I mean, what about Matty Ice?
13-2, so plus 650.
Wow. So he's better odds than Rodgers.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. And what about Deshaun? He was my lottery pick.
14-1 here.
Oh, wow. I got to find... Maybe I should bet offshore.
I see on Westgate right now, Rodgers is 8-1. Matt Ryan's 18-1.
Okay.
Deshaun's 20-1.
So then, question: your initial thoughts on who are your value picks against my value picks?
I do like 2 of yours. I do like Deshaun Watson as well as Matt Ryan. One I'm not a big fan of is Aaron Rodgers. I think he's a really good elite quarterback, or elite minus quarterback.
Elite minus? What does that mean?
Like a step below elite, but in between tiers almost.
In between which 2 tiers?
Like tier 1 and tier 2 almost.
So who's an elite quarterback in the league?
Well, I mean, you have Brady. I would say Breeze, of course. Big Ben. Those would be the top 3 I would go after.
So you don't think Aaron Rodgers is better than Breeze and Roethlisberger?
The team around him right now is not helping him at all, and he's got no weapons in my mind.
Okay, that's fair, but I'm talking about specifically the talent of the quarterback.
Talent of the quarterback, I would put him right around... Because
Brady's a tier 1 quarterback because of the fact that there's been a lack of talent around him for 18 years, for most years.
Mm-hmm. I put Rodgers...
That's a hot take.
I would say Rodgers is number 4.
Am I crazy? That's a hot take?
Yeah.
Rodgers is the 4th best quarterback in the NFL right now?
I would say so.
Whew, scorching.
Rodgers, 4th best.
So you would take Ben Roethlisberger in one game over Aaron Rodgers?
Yes, absolutely.
Whew, I like Ben. I'm a Ben guy, but
Are you a Benghazi?
I think you're smoking some serious stuff there. But hey, it's your opinion. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, especially with Rodgers coming off his health issues right now, I mean, he might not be the same quarterback. I hope them all the best. I mean, even though I'm against the Packers and all that, but I would definitely put him ahead of like Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, Cousins, Jimmy G, and all that.
He needs to write an article on who is on his tiers.
I would love to see that.
I would love to see your tiers. You should write an article on your tiers, on your quarterback tiers.
Fair enough.
So okay, so you don't like Aaron Rodgers as far as my value picks.
No, I don't see much value in that.
So Matty Ice is going off at what for you?
18-1 on Westgate.
Okay, so that's better at the Westgate. So thoughts on Matt Ryan with the addition of Calvin Ridley to already Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, Devontae Freeman, and Tevin Coleman.
Totally like the pick. I think their defense is speedy enough to cause a lot of 3-and-out situations, if not short time of possession for opposing offense. I think he'll see a lot of offensive time on the field, limit his turnovers, and with multiple weapons, he's going to be throwing 10-plus yards down the field easily.
Okay, and see, the best value I thought that I found was Kirk Cousins at 19-1.
Cousins on here is 15-1.
It's still pretty decent value.
It's still pretty decent value. I think they're going to rely on their run game a lot more this season coming up. With
a guy coming back off an ACL surgery?
Yes. It's kind of how they did with AP for a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. Spike, any value you see in those quarterbacks?
I like the Deshaun Watson pick at 37-1. That seems like a division that's going to be super competitive, and I think this is a guy that's going to want to throw the ball a lot, especially considering him getting hurt last year is probably going to limit his mobility, so he's going to have to rely on throwing more than running.
Mm-hmm.
But one that I like that I don't think you guys have mentioned, unless I completely missed it, is Jared Goff at 29-1.
No, we didn't.
I see him at 30-1 at Westgate. Yeah, I was kind of thinking that, but do you think they're going to rely on their run game a lot more, though?
I mean, they probably will, but I mean, this seems like the type of spot, especially with the signing of Brandon Cooks, where they're going to be able to put up yards in bunches when they want to rely on the passing game.
And I agree with you on that because you have Cooks, you have Robert Woods, who really came on last year, you have Cooper Kupp, who had, I think, 600 or 700 yards. He was pretty halfway decent, and Gurley's actually a pretty damn good receiving threat out of the backfield.
Yeah.
I don't dislike that at all.
No, I think there's a lot of good value in that one for sure. Especially with their defense amped up, I think they're going to do the same as the Falcons. I don't think they're as fast as the Falcons defense, but I think they're better overall than the Falcons defense, in my mind.
Talking about the Rams?
Yes.
All right, well, let's look at rushing. My initial thoughts, I hate to give out the whole article, then nobody will go and read it, but Kareem Hunt led the NFL in rushing last year, and he was actually...
I thought Gurley did.
No, Kareem Hunt. I did the research from my article.
Okay.
He was a field bet last year. So, Field's going off on this website at 12-1. And actually, the guy I really liked the most this year was a guy who may or may not play. Book still out is LaShawn McCoy. He was going off at 28-1.
Ah. Yeah, I see him at 16-1 on.
I can't imagine taking him now if he may get sat down for 6 games at this point. So just initially, my 4 guys that I picked were Le'Veon Bell. He's the best or closest to 0 odds. He was 4.5-1. Jordan Howard plus 1,400. Melvin Gordon plus 20 or plus 2,000, and Alvin Kamara plus 4,800. I think Kamara's got a good shot. He's obviously a lottery ticket. You know, anything above 30-1, I consider basically a long shot or a lottery. Mm-hmm. But my guess or my thought process on that was Ingram's suspended for the first 4 games, so I think he has a chance to grab the reins right there and never look back. I mean, that kid is going to be really good. Actually, he's already really good. He averaged 6 yards a carry on just 120 carries last year. 6 yards probably unlikely to be maintained, but I mean,
if he keeps about 4.8,
let's say if he goes 4.8 to 5, and is actually in the 300 carry. I mean,
you're talking 1,500 yards.
You're talking if you can stay at 5, you're talking about 1,500 yards, and that could be good for the rushing title. It'd be way good for the rushing title.
I see him at Westgate at 50-1 right now.
50? So there you go. He's even better stateside. So that was my initial thought. Melvin Gordon, talk about the Chargers. I think that he's probably the best running back in the division. Kareem Hunt, him, hand in hand. Need to see more of Kareem Hunt, but they're both really good. I would say Melvin Gordon's probably the most experienced and best running back in the division at this moment. Jordan Howard, because basically, other than Allen Robinson, they got nothing. So, I mean, he had 1,100 last year. I think he can get, 200 to 300 more. And again, these guys aren't guaranteed. I mean, I'd love for them to win the rushing title, but these guys are more guys that, hey, if 1,400 is good enough for the title, it could be this guy, And then Le'Veon Bell, my theory on that one is just he's going to run for fuck you numbers this year on his way out of Pittsburgh. So, anybody you see that may jump out on the screen, or if any picks you like?
One that you liked that you mentioned a lot about it was Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
For sure. So I see a lot of decent value with that. A wild card pick for me I see is Saquon Barkley. I mean, I wonder how the Giants' offensive line is going to hold up this season, and
it definitely improved.
Yeah.
And you know what? I mean, the thought process behind it is Eli needs to be conserved. That's not the right word. What's the word I'm looking for?
Protected?
No, he's definitely going to be protected with an upgrade, but he doesn't need to be throwing the ball 50 times a game. I guess conserved is the right word.
Yeah. Whatever.
I mean, if they rely on the run game more to kind of open up the pass.
Well, I mean, I know that this is kind of conspiracy-ish theory, but, Utilizing less of Eli also means that you're throwing to OBJ less, which means his stats could go down. You could still win ball games and don't have to pay him $20 million next year.
Absolutely.
So by utilizing Barkley, who you've already got locked up for $31 million over the next 4 years, maybe you're right. Maybe that he runs for 1,500 yards next year. I don't see it. I don't see him running for 1,500 yards.
I see him at 18-1 right now, and I think that's all right value.
No, it's at 1,500 yards,
yeah,
not plus 1,500. Yeah. So, anybody you like?
It's tough for me to overlook Zeke. I mean, just the Cowboys' offensive line, I think, is
plus 250. I mean, it's not that he's not. He's the favorite, clearly.
Yeah, on Westgate right now, he's plus 350. But
there's no value there, which is problematic for me. I'm not going to put any money on it. I just, when I see the field and I see Zeke out there, it's just I have trouble trying to lay money on people that I don't.
Especially with no Des Bryant this year too.
Yeah.
Who are their receivers? Except for Colt. Who's the white guy who made a rap video?
Colt McCoy?
No. I know who Colt McCoy is. What are you doing?
I keep putting water rigs on
Terrence Williams.
And you keep putting unnecessary noises in the fucking podcast.
I keep hitting
Terrence Williams, Michael Gallup,
Colt Brennan.
No, that's the guy from Hawaii.
Cole Beasley.
I actually had somebody try to convince me because he
Alan
came out.
Hearns is another one.
He came out in the same draft as Matt Ryan. The guy playing craps at Main Street Station tried to convince me that Colt Brennan would have a better NFL career than Matt Ryan.
Wait, back then, or you're telling me he still has a shot?
It was before the draft.
He got drafted by the Redskins, right?
I don't even know.
Was he Mr. Relevant?
No, he got drafted in the first round, I think, right? Didn't he?
Oh, now we got to look it up.
Now we got to look it up. We got to get the Crack Richard staff. Crack Richard staff's been on strike for a long time.
What's going on with that?
Who knows?
We're paying them.
She made mac and cheese tonight, and that was the max effort. So it was delicious. You guys missed it. Let's go to receiving while we look up that crack research about Colt Brennan.
I'm looking at him now. 6th round from the Redskins.
Oh, yeah, totally. First round pick.
Yeah.
But I knew he got drafted by I didn't know, but I was pretty sure he got drafted by the Redskins. So what I'm going to do when I post this podcast is I'm going to tweet at Colt Brennan and say, hey, look, dude, you made the show. See if he's doing anything lately.
Let's see. Career history. Washington Redskins 08 to 09. Oakland Raiders 2010. Hartford Colonials, which I believe was UFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were.
2011. Saskatchewan Roughriders 2012. CFL. And then the Los Angeles Kiss in 2014.
That's arena. Man, he's a world traveler. He travels to all the leagues.
Oh, speaking of arena football, I was looking at William Hill. You actually can bet arena football on there.
Yeah. Did anybody say you couldn't?
Well, I just saw it for the first time.
Oh, yeah, you can. I think the season just started, didn't it?
Yeah.
So, the article I had the most trouble with of the 3 I've written so far about these prop bets was receiving yards. And, I mean, it's really hard to go against Antonio Brown, but he has no value, and 2, he hasn't really led the league that many years in receiving. So it created a kind of an issue. Something I didn't realize until I started researching was only 15 players last year had 1,000+ receiving yards. I mean, you think about it.
Really?
Yeah, I know. Dude, and 2 of them were tight ends, Kelsey and Gronk. So you think about it. I mean, obviously in the NFL for running backs and receivers, 1,000 yards is that bar, that benchmark. But only 15 players out of the league. I mean, a couple guys had like 9 and change, and Mike Evans actually had 1,001 yard. So I mean, does he really count?
Wow.
Well, same with Tate with 1,003.
Yeah, Tate had 1,003. In 2016 alone, there were 25 players. So that number is dropping as teams like the Cowboys, as you heard their wide receiving core, a bunch of who? Teams are more going to this situation where everybody's kind of in that 50 catch 600 range, and they don't really ever have to pay a breakout superstar. That's why they got rid of Dez. A couple guys I found incredibly, interesting and I thought had some good value. First one was at plus 900 was DeAndre Hopkins. And I think, that couples with my flyer pick with Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson wins the passing title, I feel like DeAndre Hopkins has got to have a monster season at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I see him on Westgate at plus 850.
Okay, so theoretically almost the same.
Yeah.
Another guy I like, with a new quarterback, even though Hopkins doesn't have a new quarterback, is Adam Thielen, plus 1,600. What's he over where you're at?
18-1.
Okay, so he's 1,800 where you're at. He had 1,200 yards last year, and now with Cousins, I honestly believe he has the ability to get up to another 500 yards. I think he can have 1,700 yards receiving. Am I saying he's going to get 1,700? No, probably not necessarily, but I think he has the ability.
But realistically, he has anywhere from
I think he's not getting any
15, if not.
He's not getting any less than he did last year. He's one of the only guys in the league so far in his career who has actually grown his stats year by year. Mm-hmm. So I think with Cousins, the expectations from Cousins coming back, he's going to try to get on the same page as Diggs and Thielen. And I think, I think Thielen is the better of the two receivers and probably the more reliable option at that point. So, another one, I'll go with my lottery ticket one before I go. The one I actually would lay money. I'm actually going to lay money on because once I say it, on this site, Jarvis Landry was 185-1.
Holy shit!
Right. The guy who had 112 catches last year for 987 yards. Obviously, 8.8 is not the best. But I think Tyrod...
He's on the field here, which the field's not listed right now.
Oh, he's not even on the book. So, okay, well then, he's probably not good stateside then. But, I mean, the guy had 987 on 112, and now he's lined up against Josh Gordon, who, if he's healthy and mentally stable, is probably one of the best receivers in the league, and now you're lined up against... I mean, Josh Gordon's a guy that's going to command double teams, and if they can take double teams, that makes Landry, who's already a very, very good wide receiver, that much better. So, obviously, he's a big flyer. My guess is he'll still probably finish around exactly what he did this year. But, God forbid, the change of scenery has an effect on him and he has 1,600 yards. 185 is not a bad value.
No, definitely not.
So, here's the guy I think is going to win the receiving title this year. And get ready for Spike to laugh at me.
Am I going to laugh pretty hard, too?
Provided Luck plays 16 games, T.Y. Hilton's going to win the receiving.
That's exactly who I was going to say as a lottery pick. That's who I was going to say at 20-1.
Yeah, 20-1.
It's 20-1 where I found it, yeah.
Yeah, the pick actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
He had 966 yards receiving last year with the dumpster fire that was Jacoby Brissett. And did Brissett play every game? Didn't like
10 or something like that?
I want to say somebody else played the first couple games. Point being is he had 966 yards receiving, and he had a dumpster fire on him in Indianapolis. 2 years ago, 2016, Luck played 16 games. T.Y. Hilton led the league with 1,448 yards receiving. So I think when Luck comes back, he's going to feed T.Y. as much as he can. And I think T.Y. is going to get about 1,500 yards. And again, that may be good enough to, I think 1,540 was what? Yeah, 1,533 is what led the NFL last year. So 1,500 yards could be a really good pick at 20-1. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I really like that T.Y. Hilton pick. If Luck can stay healthy.
Surprised you didn't laugh at me.
No, that's I promise you that's exactly who I was going to say when you turned it over to me. So now I actually have to go through the list.
You gotta find a new guy.
Now I'm like,
you can just agree with me.
Yeah. No, God, no, I can't do that.
I think there's a lot of good value there at 20-1 with T.Y.
Who else you like? He likes to bless himself.
True. On Westgate, I don't see any good value to me. Maybe Sammy Watkins at 51, but that's a lottery ticket to me. I wonder what on your site that you had what Marvin Jones is at.
Marvin Jones has got to be huge odds, right? Let's see. I don't even know if he has odds.
I know he doesn't have.
Oh, he has 68-1.
68-1. Oh, I mean,
same with Golden Tate.
Okay. Yeah, I know. At Caesars, I see Golden Tate at 80-1, and I see him at 50-1, and I like him at 50-1 for sure.
Why don't you like him at 80-1?
Well, I like him a lot more at that price.
Wait a second, what?
I mean,
let me just give the book back $30.
Well, looking at his stats last year, he was only had 61 receptions.
Who's this? Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones. He actually led the league, I think, in average per catch, if I'm not mistaken.
You mean yards per catch?
Yeah.
Okay. But don't you think those two would kind of cancel each other out in that sense? I mean, Calvin Johnson had no one next to him. That's why Stafford just kept feeding him the ball. Mm-hmm. I feel it's hard. And I
have a feeling like a lot of people are going to double team Tate like they have been. and he's still going to be a target. But I think Marvin Jones, coming off his rookie season, is going to see a lot more passes thrown to him.
I think you're more apt to see exactly what you saw last year. 1,100 yards with Marvin Jones and 1,000 yards with Tate. I'm not saying either of those are, I'm not saying it's not a bad pick. I just think the only reason I took Landry is because he was 185 to 1. Because I don't think he's going to be the leading receiver in the NFL. I think he's still going to fall around the 900-yard to 1,000-yard range. But at 185, if somehow Josh Gordon commands triple coverage and Jarvis Landry has 90 receptions for 1,600 yards, I'm getting paid at 185 to 1.
Yeah.
And the thing is with Sammy Watkins, 1, can he stay healthy? 2, I feel like he's more of a threat to be double teamed, and that leaves Tyreek Hill open, who had 1,183 yards last year.
Yeah.
I think Sammy Watkins helps out Tyreek Hill.
Fair enough, yeah.
But what is Sammy Watkins' number?
50 to 1.
50 to 1. See, the thing with the receivers is really weird. It's like, I feel like there's probably...
Tyreek's 35 to 1, and Sammy's 50 to 1.
I mean, the question is, you have a lot of kind of dark horse candidates that could come out of nowhere. I mean, like, people forget about Demaryius Thomas. I mean, that guy could have...
Motherfucker, would you stop stealing the guys I was going to bring up?
All right, let me have you go first.
No, I'm fucking done now.
All right, how about you go first, and then...
Here, I'll give you one I'm not going to bet on. Julian Edelman. There, fuck you. I'm done. That's my only contribution to this segment.
Sorry. No. You please go ahead.
Would that bring up Gronkowski in the discussion, though? Like, do you think he's going to receive a lot more passes early on when Edelman's not playing?
I think Hogan kind of takes over that spot. I think Gronk will get more targets. And yes, it'll lead. Are you talking about from a standpoint of leading the league in receiving yards? Yeah. It's going to be tough. A lot of he can't. I don't want to say he can't, but majority of the time he gets one over the middle for 15 yards. He really can't bring it to the house. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing you need with receivers who are going to lead the league in receiving, like Antonio Brown. That guy could catch a screen pass and take it 95 yards. Yeah. Demaryius Thomas, Spike's new favorite player.
But they have a lot of
can do the same thing. Yeah, they got a lot of jump, like Tyreek Hill, Jarvis Landry. These guys have the ability to, DeAndre Hopkins is a vertical threat. These guys have the ability to catch 60-yard touchdowns or 75-yard passes a lot more regularly than Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski. So I was surprised. I didn't realize Gronk and Kelce had both had 1,000 yards. So that was I thought Gronk was pretty close. I didn't realize he was already over. So Spice just got these fire eyes, right? He's got the double bird looking like through his soul.
He's got the eye of the Jew.
What? What?
You never seen Beer Fest?
I have, but where'd that come from? He's not Jewish. Are you Jewish? You're not Jewish.
No.
Are you Irish?
Yeah, I actually did one of those Ancestry DNA things, and yeah, it's like Irish, English, and Native American somehow.
Three-thirds fish. I don't know what 3/3 is.
3/3 Sasquatch?
3/3 is one, isn't it?
Yes, that would be one.
He's one fish. I've seen his poker game. He's a fish.
Oh, that's true.
All right, well, let's wrap it up there. And again, say thank you to our sponsors, ChaiPoker.com, 12-Ounce Sports Radio, and our newest sponsor.
The shortest sponsor in the history of podcasting, I'm fucking sure, because there's no way they're going to continue after this episode.
Hey, we got one episode.
Hey, that's what you said about the last one. They lasted, 2 months? Something like that.
Who was that? Oh, we didn't even say. VGK Pop Saga is our new sponsor. Thank you very much. And what are you talking about?
What was it? The Daily Sports or whatever?
What?
The one sponsor that we had, not 12-ounce, but...
You talking about Forward Mile?
Yeah,
They just folded. Fuck those guys. They didn't even tell us. They were just like, I'm like sitting there going, still putting their shit on. I'm still got their logos on on our stuff, and all of a sudden some guy goes, "Why are you still pimping Forward Mile?" And I'm like, because they asked me to. And he's like, they closed like 3 months ago. They stopped producing content. I'm like, oh fuck. All right. Well, anyways, that anecdote didn't need to be said. I'll probably cut that out. Anyways, we appreciate you listening. We'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you. Goodbye.